So the church gets a lot of criticism for its rigid adherence to its teachings, as well as its high moral standard, which it's claimed contributes to feelings of exclusion among people who don't believe in those teachings or struggle to live in a pattern that reflects those moral teachings. And a big part of me sympathizes with calls for the church to be more inclusive. Virtually every churchgoer has felt marginalized by somebody else within the church, and the more involved you get, the more likely you are to experience that. Like, I've struggled plenty of times to feel like I fit in within the church. In some circles, I feel like I'm too liberal. In others, I feel like I'm too conservative. And I've had comments about my hair or the way I dress. And too often, it feels like the expectations we place on one another are just too arbitrary. I think a big reason for that is the all too common confusion between big T traditions and little t traditions. And I don't want to get into a big explanation of what that means, but suffice it to say that some beliefs and practices are absolute truths and non-negotiable, whereas others are more flexible practices and disciplines. Many Catholics struggle to know the difference and end up excluding people for their lack of adherence to small t traditions which aren't essential. They treat them as if they are essential and then marginalize people that don't conform to them. And that's a really good example of how we as a church can be far more inclusive and flexible. Unfortunately, where this criticism of the church's deficit of inclusion is often directed is against her teachings. But I think there's a major inconsistency with that criticism that needs to be addressed if we're ever going to build authentic bridges of dialogue with the people who feel marginalized by those teachings. See, the church believes that certain fundamental things are true, and not merely for the sake of ideology, but because these truths will lead people to health, happiness, prosperity, and freedom. And even Jesus said, truth is what leads to freedom. But critics have taken a position that caters to people that don't line up with those beliefs in the name of inclusivity, and then declared their opposition to anybody that doesn't uphold their exact same beliefs. In other words, they are exclusive to anyone that isn't them, but insist that they are the vanguard of inclusivity. Do you see the irony in that? That's like having two opposing sides in a conflict or even a war, where one says that they are the champions of peace, and that if you stand for peace and nonviolence, you have to join them to fight the other side. Here's the point I want to make. Nobody has an exclusive claim to inclusivity, because that's a contradiction. Nobody can claim that their opposition to people who stand firm in long-held beliefs is about inclusivity. You can say you oppose those beliefs, which is fine, but you can't say that inclusivity is your motive while you draw a line in the sand that excludes everyone that isn't willing to cross it. See, the beliefs of the church are essential to its existence. And what I don't get is this idea that there are people who don't agree with those beliefs but still want to be included in the church. That would be like me looking at an organization like PETA and saying, I wish they wouldn't exclude me because I'm not vegan. In reality, I don't want to be included because I don't agree with their core values. And there are so many church denominations that have succumbed to this contradictory notion of inclusivity, and by most estimations, they will be extinct within the next few decades. In reality, they ended the day that they compromised the beliefs that were intrinsic to their identity. The gradual progression towards the day that they shutter their doors is just a formality in recognizing that they no longer exist. To ask the church to abandon its essential doctrines so that it can be inclusive to those who don't agree with those doctrines is to ask it to cease to exist, which to me reveals the real motive in that request. People that ask for that don't want to be included in the church. They want to be included in a world where the church doesn't exist. And I think we need to be more honest with that. Let's stop hiding behind contradictory notions of inclusivity and be upfront about that opposition. Recognizing that that opposition exists is healthy and honest, and it's the only way that authentic dialogue and understanding will be breached. Thank you guys for watching that. If you enjoyed that, then please like it and share it and subscribe and come follow along for more content. And if you want to support the making of these videos, then please consider supporting the business that makes them possible. Holdsworth Design is a digital marketing and communications company that specializes in web design, print design, branding, videography, and all that kind of stuff. So, and this is with a special emphasis on churches and ministries as well. So if you know somebody that needs those services, then please consider passing that along to them, and check out the website, which is www.holdsworthdesign.com.